Hey, what's up everybody? It's Andre with AndreReeseDotBiz. All right guys, I'm your favorite psychocaster out here in these Richmond RVA streets. And you know, there's so many things that we can talk about. I've been off the circuit here for a couple of days this week. Weather was kind of janky. I had a bunch of stuff to try to get done. And most importantly, the end of the month was coming, so I had a bunch of client deliverables and stuff like that. So I just took the soft way out and stayed my black-owned business at home. All good. But here we are today, out here trying to get it in. And there's so many things that we can talk about. So let me just go ahead and jump right into it right now and kind of let you guys know what today's topics are. We're going to talk about Megan Thee Stallion and Klay Thomas. Let's discuss them. We'll talk also about Cole Thomas, Allen. He's the one that tried to attempt to take Trump's life recently in the last few days. And the final thing we'll talk about the Supreme Court. That's a pretty big hotbed issue. And so here we are, out here right now, making it happen. The temperature is roughly about 70 degrees and somewhere around 2:30 or so. Looks like the college is slightly starting to try to get out a little bit, and there's a little bit of action on the streets behind me. I'm going to go down and do my normal route. It's about, I think it's like 12 miles is what it is, 11 miles, roughly about 500 feet of climb. And I can do this route every day and not get bored because of the variety. So, and just gonna try to make it happen. And we got some stuff to do tonight. I need to get back home, get myself changed, and then hit it. And we got our 3-year anniversary tomorrow, which is May 1st. So our 3-year anniversary is when we first met. We talked and negotiated for a while. We met up face to face. And I told Marilyn going into it, I want a date with intention. Tomorrow is our 3-year anniversary, May 1st. So let's go ahead and start talking about stuff here. So I just want to just clarify one thing. All these conversations I have, some of the things are silly, some of them are a little, stupid, some of them are, not necessarily provocative, but they're designed to, make you think. Some other things I talk about are controversial topics like the, Cole Allen today, as well as what's going on with the Supreme Court. And in reality, all this stuff that I'm doing here, these conversations are failure analysis. And so what is failure analysis? It's pinpointing. Imagine this. Imagine there's a skyscraper someplace in New York City, and inside of it, there's a series of bad beams that are starting to rot and warp, but there's a big controversy about the paint on the building. And so when the building makes a mistake one day and falls down and nobody, gets hurt, but it causes, calamity in the city, people start blaming the paint that's on the outside of the building, but really deep down inside, it's something else on the inside that caused the failure to happen. And there's failure analysis, and there's also, genesis points when, positive things take off. So a lot of things I talk about are based on failure analysis and figuring out what went wrong. That way you can kind of pinpoint where to focus and put a solution in the future. And that's no different than what we're going to talk about, today. And in my life and in my career, I'm a trained investigator, really. I spent a number of years working for accounting firms and doing audits, trying to look for anomalies and unusual patterns and that type of stuff. So you can say I'm a trained investigator when it comes to those kind of things. And even in the last, I'm not going to say specifically at all, but before I left the W2 world and transitioned to where I am now, fully self-employed. I think I'm coming up on 10 years of being out of the W-2 matrix, so one of the things I did was I was able to, depending upon what management wanted to do and things that want to be pushed through, or particular employees that were having issues or problems, I can tell them, based upon what their argument is, how the employee is going to react, and I was very, very good at it, and very, very accurate with it also as well. And if they wanted to try to move something and push something out company-wide, I was able to tell them exactly, how it's going to affect the employees, and most importantly, what the feedback would be and how it would affect morale and things we can do to make adjustments so that we wouldn't have to, kind of go through all that stuff. So my brother was really good at that. And many people ask me many times, how do you know all this stuff? And and I tell you, it's part of my personality. My Myers-Briggs score, being a Sigma male, a bunch of stuff. Also having traumatic intelligence, all these different things come into play, and it makes me able to quickly read a room and assess the situation and figure out how a brother needs to move or how the outcome will be affected. That way I can adjust, ahead of time. So it definitely is a skill, and I enjoy using my skills at failure analysis. This is kind of a creative way that I am able to keep the juices flowing. And one of the things in the Michael Jackson movie recently, one of the things that Michael talked about was, he was trying to come up with Thriller and a bunch of other stuff. And so he was like, I need to be ready to receive the information that's coming. I'm just paraphrasing. I need to be ready to receive the information that's coming down from outer space, the creativity that's coming, because if I'm not ready to accept it when it arrives, Prince is gonna get it. So, and I think that a lot of I've heard this many, many times before in the past, there's certain new things, knowledge, information that pops up, that comes up out here in the world. And if you don't utilize it to its fullest extent when it's available to you, then ultimately in the end, that information will go to somebody else, And so this is a way of me paying homage and being respectful and trying my best to try to help folks, get through a lot of these challenging times that we're going through right now. And it's kind of my way of giving back. And most importantly, making the world, a better place, like Michael Jackson said, make the world a better place. And so I think we all have the ability to do something to be able to make things better. And going through these analysis and stuff and talking about how it can affect and improve your life or your business or the things around you is something that is definitely useful. And so I'm not here to try to put anybody down or to try to choose a political side in any kind of way. I'm just here just to talk about things and provide a different perspective that you may not have been aware of. And I do make mistakes. And one of the things I'm doing now, when I go back and watch the playback, sometimes I'll say a wrong word or something like that, or make a wrong reference. I'll correct those things in the bottom. Like right now, I'm 4'2". So you'll see down here on the bottom how I go about fixing that stuff. So I'm actually really 6'3". But in the end, it doesn't really change much in the overall story. So I just want you guys to just be aware of that there. So let's go ahead and jump into the first topic today. Let's talk about Klay Thomas and Megan Thee Stallion, and Klay Thomas, whoever you want to put first. Man, they are, man, I'm telling you right now, the internets, the interwebs, the TikToks. Oh, up above, you're gonna see the coal train up here. It's paused, waiting to go. So this is headed out to Norfolk. I love catching the coal train. So, but yeah, those two, Meg Thee Stallion and Klay Thomas, they are blowing up right now. And so what's happened, essentially, you know, we're all familiar with Megan Thee Stallion. So she's a famous hip hop artist, and she's got different endorsements and probably clothing lines and all that type of stuff. We're all familiar with Klay Thomas. He is, I don't know where he plays right now. I'm not even following basketball, but he was one of the Splash Brothers on the Warriors. I'm not sure if he's still there, if he's been drafted, went someplace else. But very, very big star in the sports world, nonetheless. And, you know, so I think she is 31 and he is roughly 36 or 38, one of the two. And so she's been part of, and I think the other thing she's really well known for is, like, during the last presidential race, she was one of the performers there for Kamala Harris. There was a lot of negative feedback that people provided about her performing and endorsement from Cardi B, etc. And I think probably one of the most notable things in her career, music-wise, is she did the song WAP. So, and there's always been a lot of controversy around that song. You know, little girls singing it, you know, all that. You know, I'm not here to judge one way or another. And like I said, Klay, he comes from, and actually for Megan, she's had to work really hard and hustle. I don't think she has any immediate brothers or sisters or family. Her mother was a rapper, and I think she died of brain cancer. And her father was a hustler, a street dude, but at some point he also, you know, kind of like passed away also as well. You know, so these are all, you know, known Googleable facts. And Klay, he comes from a fairly decent family, and his dad used to play in the NBA, and his mom was also heavily into sports. She played competitive volleyball in college, and you know, so for him to be as toned in and tuned in on sports as he is right now, it's definitely something that's in his blood and his DNA. So, you know, all good. And his parents, I think they've been married now probably for getting close to 50 years. I think, yeah, getting close to 50 years. They've been married for a long time. They got a foundation that his dad started and mom started. You know, so he definitely has all the trappings of a good life. And he also went to a private, I think, Catholic school. And I think I looked it up. Now the tuition is like, you know, $25,000 or $28,000 a year, somewhere in that range. So, you know, he's got a really, really good background. So let's advance forward here. So I had heard, I don't know how long ago, that Megan Thee Stallion was, actually, let me back up real quick. And so one of the things that Megan Thee Stallion has always been big on is pushing the city girl ideology. And what is that? If you remember, what was it, Sex and the City? It took place in New York, where the ladies there, they dated who they wanted to and hung out with what they wanted to, and they weren't necessarily going for like the traditional wife model. That's very similar to, you know, what we're talking about here. And on Klay's side, of course, he's a basketball player. He's an international guy and has unlimited access to the ladies, you know, one of the most eligible bachelors and playboy, all that stuff. So that's kind of where we are right there. So let's advance forward to them dating. So I found out, I don't know how many months ago, I think they've been dating close to 10 months or something since they've gone public. I found out when they were dating, and I was really surprised. I was like, oh, that's like one of the last things in my life I would ever had expected. And I was at some point kind of doubting myself. I was like, is it Megan Thee Stallion, or is there a different one? So I looked it up. I was like, oh, okay, that's her. And so I had a minor fascination with the whole thing that may have lasted like 2 minutes. And then a brother kept it moving, kept it going. So I kept hearing, like everybody else did along the way, they're hanging out, they're doing things. Sometimes little videos would pop up of them kicking and chilling. And I was like, oh, it seems like they're really making a go at it. I was really surprised though. And, you know, really surprised about the whole thing. And so no judgment, let them do their whole thing. And so recently what ended up happening was I hear that they are essentially done. And so she posts, you know, on Instagram or on the web or wherever that, you know, she was there for him and, you know, met his family and, you know, helped him get through mood swings and, you know, a bunch of other stuff like that also as well. And that, you know, she played off that he was, you know, didn't want to be monogamous with her, seems like long term. And, you know, and because of that, she was doing what, and then also think there's allegations that, you know, if he didn't want to be monogamous, that he was probably cheating, you know, and at that point she was like, I'm out of here, I'm out of 5,000. And so from that point, it shook and broke TikTok at least, and everybody started jumping on, talking about what was going on with them. You know, all good. These kind of things happen, you know, people move from one topic to the next. And I hadn't heard anything at all from Klay. And typically in these kind of things, even like when Michael B. Jordan went down, you know, Lori Harvey, she, was that the one he was dating? Yeah, I think Lori Harvey, she went public and, you know, cold dissed him straight up. And Michael B. Jordan just kind of, you know, just let it go and kept it moving. The next thing you know, he's got an Oscar and she's calling him, trying to congratulate, and he don't want to talk to her at all. And so what was Klay's response here when this all happened? You know, he was like, I'm back. I think he was on his boat and riding around, and he's like, hey, I'm back. And homeboy was not tripping at all, you know. And so there's like I said, I have not talked to either one of these guys. Neither one of them called me on the phone, you know, but I think what ends up happening was, I think in the end, I think Megan really got her feelings hurt. You know, there's one thing that she was really big on was the whole city girl independence model. But I think at some point, something in her changed or snapped or flipped or however you want to describe it. And she saw Klay, and she saw a whole different way. And I think she really, really, truly wanted to be in a long-term relationship with him that would hopefully lead to marriage. And if that happened, and I know a lot of the ladies out there right now are having the hardest time trying to find a good guy, and for different reasons. And you know, I know a lot of women were really rooting for her that she would land Klay. And my opinion of it, one way or another, you know, I didn't really care. I don't care if they did make it. I didn't care if they didn't make it. But in the end, you know, a brother always supports black love. And if that's the way that they want to move forward and make it happen, you're not ever going to hear me ever say anything negative about either one of them at all. You know, and I think that Klay at this point in his life, at being, I think he's, like I said, I think he's 38. When a brother gets to that age and he's made all this money and he's done all these wonderful things out here on the planet, and he's grown up under the legacy that his parents have established of long-term relationships and, you know, marriage and all that, really following in the footsteps of his father, you know, I think it's natural when you're laying around and trying to think about what's next because you've done a lot of things. At some point you start to naturally, as a man, start to figure out, well, I need to do something right now and settle down and lay down some roots and put down a legacy. And I think that he was very intrigued by Megan and her persona and what she's done and what she's accomplished. But I think in the end, he decided that that's not the way that he wanted to go. And the simple fact that he wasn't going to, you know, be straightforward with her and lock it down monogamously and all that, those are all classic signs from a man. Because I'll tell you, if you meet a guy and you're out here on these streets and you're dating and he wants to keep it loose, he wants to keep it vague, he doesn't want to necessarily commit, trust me, you are not the one. And if you start to think that you are and hope that you are, you start to do things that you think that he's going to like, automatically it's not going to make any difference at all. And so I'm not in his head, I'm not a part of his team in any kind of way, but for whatever reason he decided that she wasn't the way, he no longer wanted to move forward with her in that way. And I don't know what it was. Like I said, I'm not here to speak for him at all. But what's the lesson that can be learned here? And that's what these things are all about. What's a failure analysis? And so, like I said, if you meet a guy or a girl and they don't want to settle down and that's where you are, you're getting pushed off and blown off and, you know, they don't want to commit, it's up to you to accept that and don't think that you can change them. The most effective thing you can do at that point is know yourself and walk away. And so in the end, Megan did walk away. She did stay there a long time. I'm probably assuming this stuff all just didn't happen like all in a couple days or so. And you know, Klay in the end, if he's labeled as being a cheater, you know, nobody cares. They really don't. He's still going to have all kinds of ladies running after him. And has Megan cheated before in the past? Has Klay cheated in the past? Yeah, they both have, you know. But this is my prediction. I think that we're going to see something with Megan. This has ignited her to probably want to. She's going to do two things. She's going to rebel against her traditional wife, because it sounds like that's a lot of stuff that she was doing, or she's going to double down and pull up the city girl model again. But in the end, does that make things, is that the best thing for her? Only she can decide. And so I predict that in 2 years that Klay Thomas will be either engaged or he'll be married to somebody else. And so I think this was just one of his last, you know, realizations of, you know, being out here in these streets and, you know, dating different people and all that. But I think that he's at the point in his life now where he's going to settle down at some point soon. And I think there's thousands and thousands of examples of this kind of stuff happening. where you're really into a guy, he's not into you, you end the relationship, you're really, really hurt, and the next thing you know, he's getting married to somebody else, you know? And so this happens both ways. It's not just the men doing it to the women, and not just the women doing it to the men. So in the end, I wish both of them the best out here as they try to navigate this maze of dating despair. And you know, we can all learn something from them. And if you are in a situation now where you currently are, you know, pushed up with somebody else, just, you know, actions speak louder than words. So there we go. So that's it. That's our Megan Thee Stallion and Klay Thomas discussion. So let's go ahead and jump right into Cole Thomas Allen, man. And before I even start talking about this, in no way do I support anything that he did here, or anybody doing anything like this. It's just straight up wrong, and you know, should never have been done. But you know, I try to look at him and see, you know, how he might have gotten to this place. And so when you break it apart, Cole Allen is a highly decorated individual when it comes to academics. And out of high school, he went to, actually I looked it up, he went to a really prestigious high school. Was it an all-boys school? Where the kids and where the boys have to wear jackets, you know, it was very expensive. And so he was definitely groomed to be academically exceptional. And from what everybody talks about and says, he was. And he ended up getting into Caltech in California and ended up getting a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. But if you're not familiar with Caltech, Caltech is a very elite STEM school. And they're probably one of the top 10 schools in the US, and one of the top 15 schools in the world, you know. And if you think of somebody like MIT, they'd be up there in the upper echelon of schools. Hang on a second. And on your left. And so, yeah, he went to an extremely elite school. And, you know, if you kind of look at it this way, what MIT is more of a practical school, and you're going to find Caltech is going to be a lot more towards theory than necessarily application-based. But if you come out of Caltech, you know, you are going to be in the upper echelon of society when it comes to name brand recognition for, you know, mechanical engineering for sure. So, and I'll tell you, when I heard that, this is kind of what got me even to consider talking about this. When I saw it happen, the assassination attempt, I was like, oh man, here we go again. And I was like, is this the third time or fourth time that this has happened to Trump? And I'm like, man, this is just crazy. And then, of course, once you click on something, you're gonna be in the feed for a while. The algorithm is gonna say like, hey, he wants to know all about this. So within a couple minutes, they released his picture as well as basic information about him. And the first picture I saw of him he was laying on the carpet, face down, and I was like, wow, what's going on with him? You can see the level of defeat in his face. And I was like, wow, I don't think I've really seen this kind of crazy expression, and if you take a look at the picture, you will see it of him there. And he's laying on the ground, probably naked or partially naked, which makes sense because they had to strip him down in order to make sure they got all the weapons off of him, and then they covered him up with a thermal blanket. But they caught him in that moment of defeat, for sure. So at that moment I was like, what's going on with this guy? So I started to look, and like I said, information came out about Caltech. I ended up going to his LinkedIn page and checking that out, and you can see everything that he's done and what he's been involved in. And so what it comes down to is Cole failed to launch, and it's a very technical term, and his output performance in life did not match up with his pedigree. And so I know he's taken that really, really hard, and it's been an issue that he's going through for sure. And like I said, when we talk about Caltech, which is an elite school, one of my favorite movies of all times is Tron. Not the first Tron, but the second Tron, where it had, Kevin Flynn, which is the architect of the grid. He disappeared, and his son came back a number of years later because he was missing, found a way to get into the grid, and then he linked up. Was it a Ahura? I don't remember. But in the end, she ended up taking him to go see his dad. And his dad was having a little bit of small talk with him. And Michael Flynn went to Caltech. And not Michael Flynn, but Kevin Flynn, the father, went to Caltech, and he graduated with a doctoral degree. And after that, he went off and started a company, Incom, which is the basis of the movie. And he ended up disappearing into the grid. And the company Incom, and so if you think about it, with that background from Caltech, he started Incom. And Incom today, I asked Gemini, if Incom was a real company today, what would it be? Gemini said it would be Apple, it would be Microsoft, or it would be NVIDIA. That's the level. And so the pure genius of person that came out of Caltech, and created Incom, that's the level you guys be kind of looking at today, even though Incom is like a fictitious company. And there's a point where Kevin is talking to his son, and he was like, where'd you go to college? He's like, Caltech. And so he is tickled. He's just so happy. He's like, oh, that was my alma mater. And then his son told him that he didn't finish. All good. But that's the kind of the level that you're looking at. And so when you look at his LinkedIn, after he got done with college, he didn't do much. And so he worked at an internship at NASA while he was going to school. And then when he got out, he worked for a small company, and that's about it. He didn't really do a whole lot. He ended up becoming an independent, game developer for his own company. He built a very, very basic and rudimentary video game. I think it's designed to teach people about scientific principles. I think when I looked at it, that's what I kind of saw. And, and he didn't really do a whole lot. And so you would have figured if somebody went off to Stanford or, Harvard, that they would be knocking it down. And that's not the case with him. So at some point, he ended up going back to school, and he went to, I think it was CSUH, Dominican Hills. It's a CSUH school in Southern California. So he ended up getting a degree in computer science. And when he graduated, I think he graduated in 2025. And if you guys are aware right now, you know, people that are graduating with a CS degree, there is a lot of unemployment that's happening because of AI. It's very difficult to get a job as a junior software engineer. So the last post that he had posted when he graduated on LinkedIn, he said, pretty sure, what did he say? He said, pretty sure my master's in CS is done. So, and from that, he was working at some point, doing tutoring, working for a company that tutored individual students. And, you know, he did the tutoring of individual students, and he also, let me stop here real quick. All right, so he tutored individual students, and he taught them like SAT prep, that type of stuff. And so if you kind of look, and he was already doing that before he had finished his computer science degree. And so you kind of, at that moment in time, if you take a look at it, all the things that he did, should have did, and I think of it this way, when you have a degree like Caltech, or if you have a degree from Berkeley or Harvard, when you go to graduate school, the typical progression is that you go to a school that's even better than where you went, if not the same school. You know, so typically if somebody went to Berkeley, they'll go to Stanford for graduate school, et cetera. And so when you turn around and go to a school that's not ranked as well, it kind of diminishes the value of your degree that you have. And so, like I said, you should always be progressing. And so who knows what he was thinking at the time when he made the decision to do that, you know, but we are where he is. So at least he got finished with his program and he did all that. And so we kind of fast forward to where we are right now, you know, and I read his manifesto, and obviously, if you read it yourself, you can find it online. It's like 1,052 words. It's not a big read. He pretty much felt that he was going to save the United States and make it better for everybody. And he was willing to sacrifice everything that he had or would have in order to be able to make the United States a better place. Like I said, that is the wrong thing to do. I don't condone that in any kind of way, but if you read his manifesto, you will see that for yourself. Like I said, always go to yourself and read for yourself, watch it for yourself, and come up with your own opinion. And so when he drove across the country, because he still lived at home with his parents, and at 31. And so he lived at home with his parents. Some of his other siblings lived there also as well. They lived in a smaller home, and hang on a second. He lived in a typical production-built tract home in Torrance, California. And I know his parents had to have been on him about doing something with his life, getting a better job, that type of stuff. And so somewhere in there, the seed of doubt began to grow, and it got to the point where it spread to him being unhappy with the current administration, to the point where he felt like he was the only person to do it. And when you read his manifesto that he released like 10 minutes before he actually went through with it, at that point, he already had painted himself as being a hero, and that everything that he had set out to do was going to be done. The world would be better, the United States would be better. But in the end, when you watch the video of what happened when he ran in, he was quickly neutralized and defeated. And he didn't make all the things that he said he was going to do, that he wanted to do, that he laid out so carefully in his manifesto, nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. And so when I saw the look on his face of him laying on the carpet, face down, I was like, what is going on with this brother? And so when we take the failure analysis here and we break it apart, the brother, he was highly decorated, but in the end, he failed to launch. And I know us men, when we get to be, I went through it myself somewhere around 25, 26, 27. Actually, I went through it a little bit earlier, somewhere around 23, 24. I started to look at my life and where I was, and I immediately repositioned myself, went back to school, and worked hard on getting my education and made all kinds of sacrifices to get to the point where I was. And a lot of guys, it will happen within a certain range of time where we will start to think about who we are and what we've done and what we've accomplished and people around us. And with him, and with social media being what it is these days, there was no problem for him to just constantly be able to see online, you know, people that he went to school with, how well that they were doing. And I know that had to have an effect on him. And so in the end, even though his life was where it was, I feel that he had hoped that this would be his chance to finally get some fame, because all the other stuff that he tried to do was irreversible, his trajectory. And so in the end, he failed, you know, and the law enforcement did what it needed to do to neutralize him. And so I hope, at this point right now, he's looking at a minimum of 10 years because he committed a crime with a weapon. And then he's also tried to assassinate a president. That can bring up to life in jail. The brother has thrown his life away at this point. He didn't accomplish anything that he wanted to accomplish in his life. And thankfully, the luck that he's had before in the past materialized also on this attempt. But I hope that he's able to find himself and make the best of his situation that he's going to be in for the rest of his life. I think that's the most important thing for all of us. You know, sometimes we go about things the wrong way, and if we're able to realize them and you know, turn around and you know, really truly make a difference with ourselves. If we're in a situation where we can't physically do it, maybe we can influence other folks and prevent them from doing that. So like I said, my heart goes out to him, and I hope that he gets the help that he needs. And heart goes out to him in the sense that, you know, with the mental situation that he's probably going through. And I do not condone in any kind of way what he did at all. And nobody should ever attempt to do that with anyone, no matter if they're famous or not famous. It's just the wrong thing to do. But mental health these days is definitely something that we all need to take care of. And if you have people around you right now that are potentially suffering, you know, stay in close contact with them and stay by them as well as they kind of try to transition through some issues and some problems, and, you know, stand by them as much as you can. But that's it. That's all I really got to say about, you know, Cole today. And so we'll just go ahead and leave it at that. And so let's talk about the final issue here today. So let's talk about the Supreme Court. And so, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and stop here. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you guys. I end up cutting this short because I'm not going to have enough time to be able to discuss this next topic. I'm going to do that on a separate thing about the Supreme Court. And so stand by. I'm going to do that because I need a little bit more time than what I have here to be able to fully talk about the issue and discuss it. So it'll come up right after this, but and I'll just do it on its own separate video altogether. All right, guys, appreciate you listening here today. And the topics that we ended up talking about were really just the Cole Thompson as well as Meg Thee Stallion, and I talked a little bit about failure analysis also as well. So I appreciate you guys. Take care, and I'm going to start the other video here in a second. Take care, guys. Appreciate you. Peace. in my life. Shit. Okay, my brother fell. This is black ice. Okay. All right, I'm okay. All systems check. All right, I'm good. So let me just penguin it.